Okay, I'll start off and then have you add in. One of the things that attracted some of our partners is the fact that they saw something about their product. And I'll give an example of HPV vaccine. We have on that list both Merck and GSK. And we came together at a point when Gavi had actually not yet adopted HPV vaccine and made a public announcement. And here were we saying, we are willing to work with you since these are known products to break into the market in developing countries. And if you were to do good, that would actually open you up to a market bigger than you can imagine. Apart from, as I said, the passion and the compassion to prevent these girls from contracting HPV infection and developing cervical cancer, they saw a market out there, unexplored. And they thought, this was a good leap. We can't go wrong. And so they were willing to make that leap into the dark. And as I mentioned earlier, one of them is now in conversation with a non-Gavi eligible country to become the supplier. And that will be for years to come. And what we have found is that countries that are very close to each other actually tell the other, this is the product we are going for, and that helps that government and the company that we're talking about to have the market in all those countries. So they saw something of a market business opening up for them, to the extent that even one of them is now thinking of creating a center in one of our countries that will be manufactured.
I would say that from our experience, the deep commitment that we were able to realize with some of our partners came from a couple of factors. One of them was a very personal commitment. And so you've got a big company, but you have people, and I think you had alluded to this a little, Deep, that you've got people who are passionate about things, and that passion then translates into commitment. I think at least that was our experience. And I can give you an example that's linked to my second point, is that if it's linked somehow to core business. So for instance, we had a champion, his name was, I was going to mention that earlier too, that this personal commitment, these guys, these champions, they really are about moving, advancing, achieving greater gains in development programming. But so for instance, here's a guy from the Côte d'Ivoire. He's the CEO of a big business, a bookstore business, and kind of a Barnes & Noble business. And it was interesting because he said, my job is about bringing tools of learning for future generations, for the future leaders of this country. And if those future leaders can't learn because they're sick with malaria, then number one, the future development of the country is compromised, as well as my business to be able to sell books and learning tools to them. So for him, for instance, this was related to his core business, but it was also just very central to his understanding of how he could contribute to the development of his country. So he saw that he could make a difference. So that was my other piece, is that the other piece that's going to help bring people to have further engagement is if they feel that they really can make a difference. So those are my three sort of pieces.
Yeah, what I am going to say definitely echoes what both of you have been saying. I think the first point I'd make is about creating champions, both within the company and within the NGO, and this goes back to my earlier comment about mindset, who are able to envision what that relationship might look like. And it is not a linear path. These journeys often are messy. and you have to be comfortable with that messiness, that we are going to get into a messy period. But I think you need those visionaries. And within the corporations, I think one of the tipping points, so one is, in my experience, it is extremely difficult without the CEO eventually being really bought into this process that yes, we're going to really critically think of social issues and how that affects our business and how do we address those to become more profitable, that mindset. Because I think then what happens is, instead of the CEO, she or he asking, how much more money do I give to a cause? How much more do I need to keep doing that? Where they think of that as a cost, the question then becomes, because it's generating profits for me, how do I do more of this? And so that's a fundamental shift in thinking. And the individuals within the companies I'm thinking of are, the head of the R&D, it's the head of the region, it's the head of the supply chain. Those are some of the types of individuals who need to become champions. I think making the business case is really important, and NGOs can have a role in doing that. We worked last year with a mining company based in South Africa where we went in with the concept of shared value. And I'll tell you, in the first couple of meetings when we were talking to the executives, they were still thinking, what is this? How does this relate to my work? What is this concept? But I think once you start telling them about, look, this is about the critical skills that you're trying to fill. And if you can't fill that, you can't meet your production targets. Well, you know what? Think about investing in high school math and science education, and that's actually going to help you. Then they realize, oh, well, this is actually quite related to my business, going back to relevance to the business. And I think the third point is, we often hear from corporations a little bit of a struggle and a confusion about what can the NGO sector offer us. And to your point, there are a lot, but I think NGOs can be even more explicit and articulate about demonstrating that, and that can be a tipping point as well.
Can I add to that? The other thing that I think helped our success was that we were all part of a campaign that was called the United Against Malaria campaign. And the private sector partner said to us, we are so glad not to have 16 different different groups come to us and ask us for support. We know that this is a one-stop shop. We know that we can contribute, and our value is, appreciated by all the members of the partnership or the coalition.